Oh wait, you're not streaming yet?
Stream. No, but I
Well,
will be in just a second.
Well, we are streaming on my end, so I'll have to buy us some time. Kurt didn't set up his streaming preferences properly. I don't know if you can go and start streaming after we've begun.
Doing it right now.
Oh,
Yep.
well, Mr. Fancy Pants over there.
You got that right.
That's right.
Hang on once. AI marketing. Yay or nay? This is why we do, what do you call it?
Survey?
No, editing. This is why we have editing. This is talk about.
Yeah. So
I guess I didn't realize I had. Go ahead.
Oh, just go ahead and do your thing. Just tell me when you're ready to roll.
Okay.
So Kurt and I were talking about what we were going to talk about earlier on the phone, and we're like, we should just wait and talk about this, right? So we're going to be talking about the movie industry. We're going to be talking about AI. If I get a chance, I'm going to slip in some questions to Kurt about Telmandroid and what he thinks about bringing that baby to life. Are you streaming now, Kurt?
Looks like it. Supposedly, that's what the interweb says.
That's what I'm talking about. So
right.
so we were live in the pre-broadcast room before the button was pressed, and you said you just saw.
Telman, I saw an old picture of you that I haven't seen in a long while with the Telman top hat. I think you should bring back the Telman top hat.
Dude, I think I have that, the leather one, right?
Of course you do.
No,
yes.
I need a better one. It was too tight on my head, that top hat. It was like the super cool steampunk top hat I bought and was really good, but it wasn't very comfortable. But I own a few top hats, to be honest, and I don't have a single one that fits perfectly, but there's one I've been keeping my eye on that I think I'm going to buy for myself this summer. It's a fairly expensive one. So.
Consider what women do. They buy some women like to buy hundreds of shoes, and as long as it looks good, doesn't matter how it feels. That's now, right. I don't wear women's shoes. I don't know that, but you may have to sacrifice how it feels on your head for how everyone else sees you.
You know what? I'm not willing to sacrifice that. I appreciate your enthusiasm.
I don't blame you.
It's just outside of my range. So, So you saw that it was that are you talking about the picture with the top hat and the kilt from way back with wait click just click it
no
it was click
and be rich. Wasn't click and be rich?
No. Wasn't the One Click Millionaire? No, what was it? That book. You did the editing from the video from that conference, right? That's what you're talking about, that picture?
Yep. It wasn't just click it.
You know what? Whatever it was,
doesn't matter.
We'll probably remember in a few minutes. So, however, we were talking about what to talk about, and you mentioned that you had a very interesting conversation about AI recently with someone from the film industry, from the movie industry.
Yeah.
So what's up? What did you discover?
So pretty interesting. Kind of talking about AI, yay or nay, right?
Hold on, the ostrich has landed. Sorry to interrupt. This is an old marketing throwback from Ruben. He knows. Ruben, it's good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Sorry to interrupt you, Kurt. Go ahead.
Not a problem. So I got a buddy of mine. He's a prolific. Is that the right word? Writer. I think he writes 2 or 3 different books a month. Oh, by the way, quick question, Telman. So for editing, when we do this, there's a bunch of AI tricks we're going to use. I'm going to talk about this later. How do we get the camera to focus on the person who's talking to versus always having the side by side? It makes editing just a little bit easier. So like if you and I are talking, can you have this camera angle? And then if I'm telling a story, can you have just me on camera? Or does it only work?
I'm going to have to be like clicking throughout our conversation, and I'm going to have to stay on top of it. So like I can try, but I would say maybe don't have super high hopes, and I can do that. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on.
Look at that. Ooh, look at that.
All right. That's a little bit better. And then I think I can. All right. We'll start there. Go ahead.
And then you can do the side by side whenever we chat.
Yeah, right? I'll do my best. And you can even tell me to switch it, and I'm fine with that. Okay. If I'm not paying attention, tell me to switch it.
This is great for editing, right? Yeah. Okay. This is why they have AI editing. So There's a friend of mine, he's a prolific writer. He writes 2 or 3 books a month, which sounds crazy, but he's in the fiction world. There's a lot of really high-end marketers who have actually attended this person's events because it teaches them some really great creative writing styles. So what ends up happening, just kind of give you a little backstory. 5-6 years ago, they used to teach authors on how to write creative stories, specifically fiction stories. What they would do is they would have, tell me you'll like this, they would already have worlds and characters created. So all you got to do is just fill in the storyline. It wasn't like paint by numbers by any means, but if you just kind of were getting stuck on what the world and the characters and who those people would be, well, it's really easy once you kind of get your story and get your writing and going. They decided no longer to teach authors on how to write creatively for lots of different reasons. Really comes down to the human dynamic. But what ends up happening is they just decided, well, we're just going to crank out a bunch of books. And again, they already write a lot. They have some writers on staff and they just crank out books they can buy. Well, a couple of years ago, my buddy had wrote a series of 6 books because series sells really well. So just write a continuous story, 6 books. Now, you may or may not know this, but on Kindle, an author is paid per page read. And it's really not that much. Basically, he figured out the math. If someone was to read his entire 6-book series that he just wrote, he would make about $1.25 to $1.50 total. And he's like, I'm out of the book business, right? Because some of these books take off. It's like, I'm done. Well, they already had these worlds. They already had these characters. So why not just go to Hollywood that's going to take the same type of story written a little bit differently, but they're going to go to Hollywood and they can get paid anywhere from like 30, 50 to 100 grand just for someone to basically, hey, I want to take the script. And then it takes a couple of years to go into editing, hire people, blah, blah, blah. But once it gets going, these royalties from TV shows could be 30, 50, $100,000 per episode that they get versus just kind of a one-time book that's out.
Right.
So now they have these worlds, they have these characters, they have these writers. What a lot of people will do is they'll spend their entire life writing a script, and then for 4 years they move to Hollywood and they shop around the same script over and over. What these guys have actually started to do is they basically said, okay, we have all these worlds and characters. So Hollywood director, you're into sci-fi films. Here's 8 of them, quick little synopsises. Here's 8 little synopsises. Which one do you want to hear more about? And the directors would be like, oh my goodness, this one sounds great. So essentially what they're doing is Hollywood is telling them what to write, right? Instead of like shopping around this big manuscript they've worked forever, these guys can idea generate, oh my God, 20 different movie scripts a month. And if Hollywood wants to know more, they end up just doing more. So this business has gone really well. They've got in front of some really big directors. They've already got some stuff published. It just takes a couple of years for the compound effect to where they have 4, 5, or 7 series running at the same time. So things are getting really interesting. So we go out to lunch the other week. We always love to share ideas. And he's basically like, Kurt, I got to tell you. And I'm like, well, hang on. I got to tell you about this AI. And he's like, no, I got a better story for you than AI. And I go, okay. What's the story? He goes, well, you know, the progression of my business, which that's why I told you the backstory. I go, absolutely. Man, he goes, Kurt, you know, there's a writer's strike right now, and it is freaking crazy. And I go,
oh my God.
What do you mean? And he goes,
all right.
He goes, right, I told you you'd like this. And I go, well, he goes, well, here's the deal. He goes, many years ago, he goes, the writers went on strike, and they're very, and I'm going to say this just to be very direct. Sometimes they act like blue collar workers. Hey, look, I'm getting paid $10.50 an hour. I want $10.75. Sometimes that's their kind of foresight. So back 10 years ago when the writers went on strike, if you can remember, the writers went on strike and basically there was this thing called streaming or something like download or something. They didn't want any part of that because that was brand new. They wanted DVD rights. So every DVD that was sold, the writers wanted some residual from it. Well, now the writers are on strike again. And they're basically like, well, wait a minute. We want royalties on streaming. Now, Tillman, here's where it gets super interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I know you like to enjoy some movies. So did you know that Cinemax and HBO, each one of those channel providers, they only work with certain movie studios? So there's like 5 movie studios that HBO works with, 5 movie studios at Cinemax. They don't share studios. They don't share movies. It's basically a publication method. Right? Or it's a way to, so once the movies come out, it's shown by these channels. Well, years ago, if you remember, you would have cable TV and you could get pay-per-view. Well, it was always assumed that, well, someday people are going to have their own individual channels. And it was like, no, they're not going to have their own individual channels. Well, all of a sudden, Netflix and Amazon came out, what, 5, 6 years ago? Netflix and Amazon have created their own movie houses. These old, big, gargantuan old movie theaters, movie houses are basically like, haha, you streaming people, you have no idea what you're doing. Now these streaming people know exactly what people watch, what they want to watch, what kind of scripts that they have, and these big movie houses are still building scripts off of what they think has worked in the past. So the streaming services are basically like, right now they're negotiating with the writers, and the streaming services are like, look, we put out more originally made movies than the big movie houses do. You guys want residuals. We actually don't really need you as much anymore because there's this thing called AI that's come out. So you wanted DVD residuals now you want streaming residuals, but us as a streaming house, we don't have to pay that because we create a lot more movies than the big movie houses. Those guys will be out of business. The cable TV networks, those guys are going to be out of business. So you guys can either embrace AI and work for us with a whole different contract, or very soon you're going to be completely irrelevant. Now, with that being said, the buddy of mine who's a creative writer has basically said, hey, Kurt, I've written so many books. ChatGPT knows my writing style. It takes me longer to condition ChatGPT than it does for me to creatively write. So for creative people, we talked about this last time that we talked, for creative people, there's going to be some really interesting advantages with AI for idea creation, for coming up with topics, or even just the movies themselves. People who are only filling in the blanks of scripts and are very methodical about how they write, that's going to be replaced with AI. So the movie industry right now, there's some bargaining chips with the streaming services. They used to be laughed at before. It's funny how quick technology changes, especially technology in storytelling, and how we're going to be seeing better stories, more stories, but it's probably going to be from less humans.
Right. Interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, it's so fascinating. I was driving back. I was out this morning. I was driving back to my place, and I was listening.
And you may want to switch the camera, Telman, just as a reminder.
Oh, thanks for the reminder, Kurt.
We are just figuring this out as we go. There we go.
So yeah, I was driving back to my place, and I was listening to this song. It was not a new song, and I did not put my phone on silent mode. And there was this line in it about the machines that were built to make more machines that then made more machines. And I was like, oh man. And I remember we were talking, and I like our last live stream with Joshua Lee, and I was like, you guys remember the Borg, right? And being assimilated and all this stuff. So there is this really interesting there's a really interesting dark side to all of this that I want to explore and I want to talk about, because I was talking to my son about AI, and he's like, yeah, you know what AI is used most for? I'm like, no, Torger, what is it used for? He's like, it's being used by all the students to write their papers for them. That's what AI is used most for. Everybody's using GPT for to write their papers for them. And I was like, obviously, whatever world we're living in, we find applications for this stuff. And I'm not saying that it is not true that ChatGPT is mostly being used by students to write their papers, but that is one of the reasons, like the early adopters who will dive into the technology and try it, it's writing people's papers from grade school all the way up through, I'm sure, PhD, programs and thesis work and all this kind of stuff as a shortcut, right?
Which is interesting. I heard a teacher say this once, where they asked the teacher, "Is this cheating?" And he's like, "If you're in a competition, that would be cheating. You're learning. So if this is a new tool that has come up, it's a way for you can learn. So if we're supposed to teach kids on how to have the advantage and how to think better as they get older, is it really cheating, or is it just giving them an additional tool that they have to learn how to work with?"
No, I know. And this is one of the interesting things. I was thinking about this before we were talking, because so the calculator, right? The calculator it allowed us to stop doing math in our heads or on paper for complex problems and get an instantaneous solution without us having to do the work. So the advantage is it's a massive shortcut and we don't have to do that work. The disadvantage is we're not developing that part of our brain. we're not keeping that part of our brain strong unless we just happen to essentially want to do the arithmetic push-ups. And
Like,
so
I think what's important here. Would you mind moving the camera where side by side? I can't
I'll
do it
move
from my side,
mine.
otherwise I'm gonna
Yeah,
do that.
go for it. Let's do it.
Woo, look at
There it
that.
is.
We're going to use some AI software that cuts up all these highlights. I'm going to talk about that later. Me and Tillman, I had a really great point on the last thing that you just said. And then I was looking at the side-by-side camera, thinking about how we were going to edit this.
Calculator. So,
calculator.
ChatGPT is for, I mean, this is a simplistic version, but ChatGPT for something like writing an essay or a script for an episode of a show is the same as a calculator for math. Right?
The interesting, so very, very close, right? The interesting thing from talking to my writer friend was like, you can ask ChatGPT for like a script outline, right? And what it's going to give you is it's going to give you different words because it's a language model, right? It's going to give you different words that kind of mean the same thing. So it's going to be kind of generalistic, but it's going to use some different words to explain it a little bit. But he's like, as a good story writer, that's what I do. I'm going to take the similar situation or similar type of words, but I'm going to find creative words that people can really think through. He goes, that's what ChatGPT can't do right now. As language models, it can put stuff together,
right?
But it can't creatively think about it. So to go back on the calculator thing, I've always thought this. I think we talked about this a little last time we did a show. Yeah. Is when I was in counting in high school, the teacher was always like, "You're not going to have a calculator in your pocket," and I always thought in my head, I'm like, "This is stupid." Because why would I want my accountant to do math in their head? I don't want them to do math in my head. What I want them to do is to use a calculator.
Right.
But on the other side, it's something that you just said too, and you're somebody who's been in business for a long time looking at numbers. Let's just say hypothetically that I never learned to do the math in my head. I wouldn't recognize the patterns if something was going wrong or if it was off.
Yeah.
Right. If I didn't know how to do the math in my head and I always needed to use a calculator, I would never know, hey, this math looks off or it doesn't look right or it's wrong, because I would always be relying on the calculator. So I think it's important. We're always going to have to be able to think through the situations. We're going to have to do it in our head, but now we just have a much, much stronger than the abacus and stronger than the calculator, something that can help idea generate and come up with some of these solutions. So I'm fascinated by it, but a lot of people are scared about it.
Well, here's the thing. People always have something to be scared about, first of all.
Always.
However, I saw a Facebook reel, right? The short ones on Facebook are called reels. I saw a Facebook reel about 2 AI tools that sparked my excitement around Telmandroid. I want to share them with you. And so here's the idea. Telmandroid is an idea that I've had for over a decade of a robot version of Telman, where I upload my consciousness to this robot. And I didn't know what form it would take. I didn't know if it was going to be a website or if it was going to be an app or if it would literally be a physical robot. I don't know. And it might be all these things. But Telmandroid doesn't exist yet. And so there are these 2 tools. I'm guessing you've probably heard of at least one of them, but I don't know. One is called HeyGen.
Absolutely. That is part. I just did a presentation on 50 of the top AI tools that we love to use. Mm-hmm. HeyGen's one of them. It's a little expensive. Tell me I have something that will turn you into a cartoon character that you can upload your voice to that will match your voice into the cartoon character, moving, blinking, moving their head and everything.
Dude, so then what you do is you take syllabi.io, which you probably know.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Which can generate scripts.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And so the idea would be essentially what I'm thinking about is creating a robot avatar guru of myself that isn't powered by my actual voice, but it's powered by an AI written script, and then matches and you run it through and then it matches it to the tonality of my voice after you've mapped it into the program. And so that's one way of taking an idea for a character. In this case, it's a funny android version of myself, right? So
Absolutely.
And beginning to create content that isn't meant to try to fool people into thinking it's human, right? So it's then passable. So it's kind of like Max Headroom back in the day. Do you remember Max Headroom?
Absolutely. I do, in the 80s and 90s. Absolutely.
Same thing. So,
yep.
So I guess I'm curious if we wanted to bring Telmandroid to life on the internet, right? Given some of the tools that and it's almost like it doesn't even matter. Like I'm looking to experiment with ways of bringing it to life. And I'm curious, like, what pops into your mind? Like, what would you do to bring Telmandroid to life? Like, what tools would you loop together or string together to make something cool happen?
I'd kind of need to sit down for a little bit and kind of look through on what we want to do, right? Like there's a forward facing image that I could think about that we would use for something like HeyGen. Well, actually, I would use something like AI captions, which essentially can help AI captions. You know what? I'll do something I've been working on that I'm going to work on a lot this week, Telman, that I'm going to talk about more next week, is the AI stacks that we're using. You know, a lot of people like to say the tech stacks that they use, what's all the technology you stack on top of each other? What are all the AI tools that we stack on top of each other? That's an interesting question, because what comes to mind is there's an app, and I can't remember it off the top of my head, that I use on my phone that you can select 15 different pictures of your face, and then it'll turn you into 20 different types of characters, right? Could be psychedelic, could be cartoon, could be like Simpsons. So now you have all these character faces.
I have one of those too. It may or may not be the same tool, but yeah, I'm
absolutely. And it's like 18 out of the pictures don't really look good, but 2 of them do. Right. Well, then you can take those 2 pictures right there. You can 2 choices you have then is you take that picture. One, you can upload it to Canva. Canva's really good about removing the background image, right? I like to do that. Or the other thing is there's another software out there. Name slips my head. You upload this creative to it, then you can also upload your voice. Now, here's the thing about the voice. So let's just say we upload the creative first. That's number 1. Number 2, we go over to that script writing AI software that you talked about to write out the script. We then go step number 3. We would use something called 11 Labs. 11 Labs can clone your voice. So we would just take the script from that script writing AI software, put it into 11 Labs, and all of a sudden now you're reading the script. And the more times that you generate 11 Labs, the better that the voice recognition comes to be, the better the inflection, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we upload it back into step number 5. We upload it into the software that matches your voice with the cartoon face. So it will blink, it will smile, it will have inflection. And that way you can upload ads or upload content directly for Telman Voice. Yep. I think they limit it to like 15 minutes a month for $25. I think 20 minutes. Like you couldn't do an entire episode like this because it would get really expensive, but you could release 1-minute videos every single day, or 30-second videos every single day with that mascot voice. That would be the front facing to start doing, which would be really interesting. And then there is technology that we're working with now. I still got to test more of it, that can actually research a bunch of the content that you've already written. So it can say, oh, okay, it can basically ask questions back and forth, or ask questions, answer questions, almost like your own, it's the best way to say this, almost like your own bot service. Dude, right? It's just like being able to communicate.
Like, this is what, this is something that you and I could team up and sell like crazy. For the record, like I've sold a lot of email-driven mascots. Okay, but like like in the last 6 months, the number of AI tools that have popped is crazy, and the number of applications that have been created, it's just off the charts. And I'm just beginning to see it now, and so we could totally sell AI mascots for your company.
Yeah,
and get you out of the spotlight as the guru that is camera shy, and completely take all the front-facing marketing and turn it into an entertaining, completely AI-powered mascot.
Yeah, that's true.
We should do that.
That's true. Yep. Take some work on it. There's some technology at it to start tweaking it, but yes, absolutely.
Let's have a follow-up meeting on that soon, Kurt. I bet
we'll do that next week.
We're living bejesus right out of that.
Yeah, I think we may have talked about this last time that we talked, but I just hosted an online presentation. It's supposed to be for 4 hours for us to go over our top 50 tools that we love to use. Yeah. It ended up going 6.5 hours. Half the people who showed up at the very beginning were still on 6.5 hours later. We're actually going to do a follow-up webinar this Thursday where we're going to go over our top 15 tools that these aren't additional tools. These are ones we just needed to dive into a little bit more. Like, for example, Telman, I'm going to go ahead and take this video. I'm going to take the YouTube link. I'm going to go ahead and put it into this one software. It's free, which is great. It's going to not only find the highlight points where it's going to start our conversation, it's going to cut up the videos into 30, 60, 90-second bits. It's then going to research to see if we said any keywords that may be interesting to come up with title recommendations, description recommendations, and hashtags for Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. So it used to be like, oh, hey, Telman and I are going to record once a week. Let's give it to a video editor. Let's get them to edit it up. Let's get them to put the transcription, the transcription right on the video. Let's get them to put some little emojis on there to convey some different emotions. Let's get that back in 2 weeks. Let's then start posting the content. No, with this stuff, within 15 to 20 minutes, it will edit it, put the transcription on it, put some additional kind of B-roll on it for you as well. And then that way we just schedule it with a post scheduler, and literally good news and bad news, it removes a lot of people from our staff. Right. It automates a lot of the processes. And really, as being a creative type, we're just able to do more and more and more. So we can cut up a lot of this content into 1-minute videos, and those things are just rocking it right now. So I will give you some more information on our AI stack on how we do that later next week.
Awesome. So guys, if you're interested in Kurt's AI stack and the spotlight training that's coming up, type AI stack in the comments below, AI stack, and we'll send you a link the moment it's live to where you can get more information about getting in on that training.
Yeah, I also have a list of documents we created with AI. It's one of my favorite AI. It's called Designer, Designerr. There's 2 R's. And essentially what you can do is you can just put copy straight on into a book. It'll help add in some images. And very quickly, it turns it into this, not just a PDF, but it almost looks like a virtual book where you turn the pages. It makes the sounds of turning the pages. So if you're interested in the 50 top AI tools that we use and you're looking for that workbook, happy to give you that workbook. That should be ready, I think, later today or tomorrow. Just let me know down below, 50 AI tool workbook, and I will make sure I send you a link to that. If you'd like to attend our live training coming up, it's not a free training. What essentially we've done is we've built an online community of people who are using AI tools right now inside of their marketing. Last week, we went over the top 50 tools that we use. So we basically have taken Telman, our 6.5-hour presentation, I think I may have mentioned this, our 6.5-hour presentation, just imagine how much time it takes to edit a 6.5-hour presentation to cut down all the individual tools that we talked about, right? What we used something called repurpose.io. It was very easy for me while my girlfriend and I were watching a movie that essentially I went into repurpose.io, I looked at all of our videos, and I cut out what they call segments. That's it. I just instead of I didn't take out all the ums and ahs. I didn't edit all the videos without some great transitions, but you can create an intro, an exit. So every time someone watches the intro of the video, right, or watches the video, there's a little intro that comes up. There's a little exit. I cut out what they call snippets of the video. All of a sudden, instead of like taking our video here or 6.5 hours, which is a huge file, cutting one video the first 2 minutes, rendering that on my computer, waiting 5 to 10 minutes, doing the next one, 40, that would take me 2 weeks. Right. I literally hit one button once I created the snippets. It put the intro, the exit, the transcription, it edited the video. I woke up in the morning, I had 45 edits now already done, which within 48 hours, I uploaded all those edits into our Facebook group. Yep. We went from a 6.5-hour call to 48 hours later, having an entire course cut up, transcriptions, timestamps for each individual post. I did it on my own. Would have taken a staff of at least 3 or 4 people, at least a week or 2 to do that.
Dude, so there are 2 pieces to this. One is massive productivity increase in certain areas of our business.
Absolutely.
And our lives.
Absolutely.
So and whereas that may take away potentially from staff to do that, here's the flip side. The flip side is, number one, now you and your business have become more efficient in a certain way, which means more profitable, which means more growth if you want it. Number 2 is it also opens up an opportunity for humans to do the things that we're not currently doing and not currently giving enough focus. For example, you take those people and those salaries that would have previously been doing this manual labor editing, and now they're proactively calling your customers and creating deeper and more meaningful relationships with them on it. So it does change the human jobs, but it doesn't actually replace them. It changes what we need as entrepreneurs and as business owners, but it doesn't, just because one area of the business becomes more efficient doesn't mean there aren't 1,000 other areas of the business that need more human attention. Right. And
Absolutely
so that's the key. That's the key. Is remember, okay, this is working faster now. Now, like, for example, right now we're on webcams, right? We're doing a live stream. Where's our cameraman? Where's our cameraman, Kurt? There's no cameraman.
Yeah.
Right? There's no cameraman. Right?
We have transcriptions that are automatically coming up here as well too on both YouTube and Facebook that would have required editing before.
Exactly.
Not anymore.
Exactly. So that, but it's not like there are suddenly more hours in the week. You know what I mean? Even though these areas. So the other thing that the other awesome opportunity that's created is the tech editors and the people that know all the tools and have mastery or some degree of mastery over how to use those tools then become exceptionally valuable. Because Kurt,
absolutely,
this is new, it's interesting, it's fun, and you're doing it right now because you're like at the leading edge of your company and you're exploring what these tools can do. But as soon as that gets monotonous for you, what's going to happen? Like, you're going to be on to something else, and that all that efficiency will go out the window unless there's somebody on your team in order to continue working with those tools and doing that. So it's not a situation where the editor goes away. It's just that the way an editor does the editing and the amount of editing that they can do
is increased.
Right? So in that way, an editor becomes much more valuable, right? Like a single,
especially if they have
becomes more valuable. Yeah.
Especially if they have creative ability. Right? Because there's lots of softwares that are coming out there and they're helping people. Like Descript's a great one. Instead of doing an editor where there's a little timeline where you're going to cut it, it literally is going to transcribe your video and you're going to edit by the transcriptions. You can change words. If I mispronounce Telman's name, I can have it literally retype out Telman's name. It will repeat my voice and enunciate Telman's names properly, which is crazy. But an average editor can do a really good job with Descript. Someone who already has editing experience, literally it's like, dude, hold my beer, watch what I can do with this. I didn't realize I could edit so fast. So just like you said, a good creative type, we still need an editor, but now we're going to be able to have a lot different output and a lot more creative output as well.
Super cool. Super cool. So Kurt, what are your thoughts on how someone who's just getting started building an online business, what would be the first, in just in your experience, you've had much more exposure to these tools than I have, okay? Like a lot more. I still haven't watched your 6.5-hour webinar, so I need to get on that.
Now we've got it all cut down, so they're
I just need to log in and watch the videos, just go watch the videos. But you've helped. And you've seen a lot of people that are new to the marketing world, new to the online business world. What would be the first practical application, one AI tool that could help a newbie to simply get started with building their online business?
I'll give you two tools. Number one is ChatGPT. I mean, it's just hands down the questions that you can start to ask it and play around with. It's pretty interesting. The second one is Promptbase, Prompt, Promptbase. It's going to give you a whole bunch of different prompts and ideas that can help you just really rock and roll your content creation. So ChatGPT can help you outline a book. ChatGPT right now is connected to the internet, so you could say, hey, what are the processes of writing a book? ChatGPT is really good at, if you know how to ask better questions, you're going to get better results, right? If you're like, do a math problem, 2 + 2. Well, that's easy. But if you're like, hey, I'd like to have a conversation about AI marketing. What are the top 5 things that I should know right now about AI marketing? It's going to start spitting back content for you. So I would want to start asking better questions to ChatGPT. Also, if I don't know the right questions to ask, I'm going to go over to Promptbase, for example, and look up a bunch of other prompts that I can buy for $1, $2, $3 to get started. You can write a book, you can design a course, you can have YouTube scripts, you can have TikTok scripts. ChatGPT can really do a lot of this for you. You just got to kind of work on your idea creation more than you worry about the actual technology itself. First place I'd start out, ChatGPT. start playing with that out next. And then join something like what I have, where we go over our 50 top tools, where essentially 50 tools is a big overwhelm. What I want you to be able to do as a creative type is to say, hey, these are the 4 tools that I love, and then work with those 5 tools specifically. So, by the way, tell me, do you know where this office is located at?
No, where?
somewhere in AI land. I got 25 offices I've set up either in the desert, at night, in a high rise, on a golf course. It's great, right? You can tell any type of story, any kind of story that you want with the right background and the right images. So
Kurt, keep talking for a minute.
Okay. Would you like me to tell dad jokes, or would you like me to tell good jokes? This is what we call in the industry as a stall, which is totally fine. I think the other thing is a lot of people have their own bias is, hey, is AI going to work? Is it not going to work for me? And I think the big thing is in my opinion, is just to have an open mind on what it can do and what it could possibly do for you in your business. I mean, even in my personal life, helping me create shopping lists, create recipe ideas, I get that all from ChatGPT. Heck, one of the things is to make shopping even easier. I'll basically say, hey, look, here are the 5 things that I have in my refrigerator. What else do I need to go out and get, and sort it by common grocery categories, so I can maximize my time at the store. And it'll say, if you have this in your fridge, add these ingredients, go to the store, shop here, here, and here in this location, and you're done. And a lot of times you can automate and make the process a lot easier. So if you were just getting started, I would be playing around with ChatGPT. Trust me, you're still not way behind. It's still just getting started. And then start seeing what kind of things do you like to create. And I am happy to open your eyes into, here's some tools that can help you create really whatever you want to create. Children's books, coloring books, T-shirts, print on demand, all that stuff's possible with AI very quickly and easily.
Yes. All right, guys, if you want to know more about Kurt's AI toolbox and the upcoming training, write AI Stack in the comments. We'll hit you with the link as soon as it's available. And if you guys have any questions about AI in general, as it relates to marketing specifically, and or if you have any specific questions, practical application for you, ask them in the comments below, and we'll address them in our next video.
Absolutely.
We are currently going live once a week together on Mondays at roughly 11 a.m. Eastern. I expect that will start happening more on time as the weeks go by. So, Kurt.
And then we're going to practice what we preach, right?
That's right.
We're going to take all this content, put it into AI. We'll talk about it later. But if you want to be able to create lots of great content, sometimes just doing an interview like this with an expert or a friend on a regular basis, consistent action right now with the AI tools is what's winning more than anything else. Not working with the fanciest tool to do the one fancy thing. Just consistency and creating more content.
Wax on.
Right? New tools, same strategy. That's it.
Yep. Cool. Rock and roll, everybody. Have an awesome week, and we'll talk to you soon.
See everyone.